giving the live stream a second to kick in to YouTube and LinkedIn. But thanks everyone for joining. Can you all hear me okay? Let's see. Great. Hi, Saeed. Hi, Abby. Yes, thank you for joining. I'm Dave Fano, founder and CEO at Teal. Let me go ahead and put this out there. I love feedback and chat and interaction through these. What I'll usually do is do like 10 to 15 minutes of live demonstration, and then I'll pause and take questions. I do these by myself. So, but please queue up the questions whenever they come to mind. Just go ahead and put them right in the chat. I'll occasionally stop and try to get them on there and get them in there. But we'll get started here in just a sec. I think, let's see, is LinkedIn streaming? Great, we are streaming on LinkedIn. Okay, wonderful. I've got the chat app. Okay, so I'm Dave Fano, founder, CEO of Teal. What we're going to talk about today is, I call this session Jumpstarting Your Job Search. Obviously, I will do it through the lens of Teal, but you can do all the things I'm going to show you with lots of tools. And I'm going to talk about a process from essentially getting your job search up and running and some of the processes and habits that you should get in place, all the way through to landing the job and getting through to that offer. So I will move at a pretty quick pace. I want to try to cover everything. These streams are recorded and automatically published to YouTube on our YouTube channel. So they'll be there, and I will send out an email through Luma, which was used for the event management, to everyone with a link to the YouTube. But if you go to our YouTube channel for Teal, it'll be in the live streams. It's there as a recording. I try to make like a more edited, curated version, but at least if you want all the material I covered, it will be there. All right, before we get started, I'd love any questions you guys have that you want me to cover. That sometimes, the benefit to doing these live and it just not being a recording is I can adapt to what you all are interested in hearing about, and what's important to you and things. So I may not answer them right now, but I love to have that context as I go through the process. So feel free to put in any questions around resume related questions, job search related questions, and I will try to tackle them. And then I'll try to save some time for Q&A at the end. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I generally like to make a new account for these so we can kind of do this process from scratch. So let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you guys see that all right? Thumbs up or something, just a little visually. Got it. Great. Okay, excellent. So we're on Teal. For anyone not familiar with Teal, Teal is trying to be an all-in-one job search platform. There's some spots we're still missing. Little by little, we're adding in there, but so you don't have to jump around to all sorts of different places. And so we try to be your one-stop shop, but highly recommend bringing in whatever tool you need to make the process better for yourself. So let's just go ahead and create an account. Doing this is free. I'll just use my account. Well, we're Tina Miller, who is our Teal member. I need to make a new person, but since we'll be logged into her LinkedIn account and stuff, it'll just make it a little more relevant. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. And when you sign up, you get asked if you want to make a new resume, take control of your job search, or practice an interview. We're going to start from the very beginning, so we're going to say take control of our job search. And let me make this a little bigger so it's easier to see. We're going to skip the checklist and things like that because I'm going to walk you through all of it. When kicking off your job search, so an assumption I'm making is the positions you're looking for. I like to say you're clear on what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with not being clear, but I also want to be upfront that there's probably some processes you need to go through before you start looking for jobs, right? Knowing the exact job title you want to do, that's kind of what you're working through. I'm not sure what I want to be. I'm pivoting from A to B. I'm going to assume you already know what B is. If you're looking for more guidance on career pivoting, happy to do something offline, but just want to sort of set the stage for that. So now that you know the job title, and maybe it's like one or two, you have a sense, but you've got some clarity on that. I think the most important thing to do is to start to understand the market. And what I mean by that is, what is the market asking for? What are the jobs? Because when I see people start their job search, one of the first things they do is they start to, let me get my resume ready. Until my resume is ready, until my LinkedIn's ready, I can't start job searching. And I actually see it as the other way around, because you're getting it ready on your idealized vision of who you are and the kind of what you want to put out there, which could be fine. And I think that's important because you have to have some boundaries around what matters to you. But you also need to understand what the market is looking for. You could spend a whole bunch of time writing a resume on your understanding of what the position is, but really job descriptions are out there, and the market's changing, right? I mean, I'm sure ChatGPT and using AI is in far more job descriptions than it was 12 months ago. And if you've got that experience, maybe you hadn't thought to include that. So I like to start with looking at jobs. And we're going to do that using the Teal job search. It's right here. It's the little magnifying glass. And when you're logged in, there's a bunch of benefits to doing it, but I'm not even going to load in my resume yet or any of those things. I'm going to talk about using job search filters. And so Tina is looking for marketing director positions. And so already here we see, and you could do this just the same on LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor. I actually recommend you do this on many job sites. And I'll give you guys actually a little glimpse into something we have coming that will help with that if we have some time. So here I see I've got 3,500 jobs. That's a lot. You know, I probably don't need to see that many jobs. So I can apply on some filters. Let's go ahead and say I only want to see jobs that show salary, right? Unless I'm seeing 0 jobs, let me apply more constraints. So here, still 2,000, plenty. You know, let's say I want remote jobs. So let's turn that on. And so now, okay, I'm at 121 jobs. That's a reasonable amount of jobs I could kind of go through realistically. We can expand that to make that a little bigger. And now I can see, what are these jobs asking for? When I look at the responsibilities, I can start to understand what are the requirements. Okay, 7 years of progressive marketing experience with experiential brands. You know, have I worked, you know, has Tina, she's working on like B2B, SaaS stuff. It's like, I could try to apply. You know what? Let me go ahead and save that job. And what I think is important when you're first starting your job search is go and just bookmark and save a ton of jobs. It's like when you're researching to buy something and you put it in your shopping cart, but you're not even sure you're going to buy it yet. That's what I think is really important here, is to start this process. And so, you know, senior director, you know, might be a little senior for me, but let me see how they define it. Okay, 10 plus years of experience. That's like right on the cusp of Tina's experience. I'll show you guys when you see her resume, but that's kind of like where her profile is. So I'll go ahead and bookmark it. And what I recommend you do is just go and bookmark a bunch of jobs. You know, this might be out of her salary range. Director, growth marketing strategy and ops. Okay, slightly different, but you know what? Let me add it in. And starting to add in more jobs. So let's get a few more. Now you can also add in more advanced filters. You know, say Tina's particularly good at Salesforce and their ecosystem of products. So let's go ahead and add that as a keyword and show results. Oh, that got it down to 0, right? So there it got over constrained. Probably because I spelled it wrong. There we go. So there's the company Salesforce, and then there's different companies that use Salesforce. So let's go ahead and add some of these. All right, I'm just going to add a few more just so we have some good quantity. All right, so now we've got an amount of jobs. And so what we'll do is now we'll go over to our tracker. If you weren't using Teal, you could do this with Google Docs, Notion, Airtable, Google Sheets, Google Drive. I really recommend that you save these job descriptions because all this stuff is really valuable. In Teal, we can go over to our tracker. We just made this account so we can skip that. And you can see all these jobs are here in our tracker now. We do put in a few of these sort of example jobs, Acme Corp. So we'll just delete those to get those out of the way. And so now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs. And we've got salary ranges, and we can go back. And what I recommend you do now is start to rate these jobs. Look at the JDs and be like, okay, this one's interesting. eBay, that's a 5 for me. You know, hospitality, yeah, that's like a 2 for me. Okay, this company Together works, experienced marketing leader, go to market. Okay, I'd give that one a 4 for myself. Salesforce, company I'm interested in, good comp, HP 4, and this one, eh. And so now, when you come back over to your tracker, which I did that by just hitting the arrow, and you can sort by excitement. I think when it comes to job searching, your time is your most limited resource. And so how do you prioritize? If you've bookmarked all 5 jobs, which one should you go to? Well, this is just a quick way, right? You don't need to, you can come up with a more sort of rigorous rubric and scoring system if you'd like, but just having something. I also see lots of folks like overthink their job search sometimes, and sort of just taking action and getting applications out and just getting the machine working, then you can evolve it over time. So if you find that there are things that are sort of blocking you from making progress, remove them from your process, and then see if you can, then get to it. So here I could say, okay, cool, this eBay job. Now let me understand this JD. And I can see, what does the market want? What keywords are they looking for? And then another cool thing is, once you bookmark 5 jobs within Teal, you unlock this compensation tool. If you click that, it's going to give you like an analysis of the comp and years of experience of the jobs you've bookmarked. If there's certain ones you don't want on here, you could just like turn them off. Maybe this one is sort of throwing off the numbers or something because that one's not really what I want. And that'll update this heat map. But generally, these jobs I'm bookmarking are looking for between 10 and 7.6 years of experience. Between 10 and 5. And the comp is as high as 1440, but with as low as 110. But if I look at average max, it's like 230 to 150. And you can kind of get a visual heat map of that. And so the more jobs you add in here, this is updating all the time. This tool is totally free. It's in beta. It's actually kind of expensive for us to run. But take a look. It's a great way to look at the entirety of your job board and kind of what's going on in your job tracker. Now, I do want to show that you can bring in jobs other ways. So if we come over here to, let's look on Indeed. Indeed's a great job board, highly recommend it. Obviously, most of you are probably using LinkedIn as well. I recommend you use many job boards. So here, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's just search. And here, as you look for jobs here, you can bring up the Teal extension, and this is another way to save it. So I do want to note this extension is changing very soon, probably as soon as next week. If we have some time, I'll show you guys the latest version. Actually, I'll show it to you real quick right now. But this will save the job for you. If you save it, it'll then bring it over. You say view and tracker, and there it is. And there's the link to the original job, and then we will use AI to process the JD for you. Let's go ahead and install. Oh, here it is. It is this one, the Job Search Companion. It's not wired up to our production site, but next week you'll need to get it from the browser here. And when you click it, it'll open it up as a side panel. So it makes the browser a little smaller, but there's all sorts of cool things that the side panel is going to allow us to do. And you can bookmark jobs just the same. This is going to our staging server, but it's got this really cool feature that I'm really excited about. If anyone wants to beta test it, let me know. Email me. I'll try to catch it in the comments if you say so. But it may be it may be hard for me to catch it. Just email me, reply to one of my emails. But it's this tool called Super Search. And so here, if we did Marketing Manager, you can check all 14 different job boards that you want to search on. And then when you click that, it opens up all these tabs for you. So there it is on there. There it is on ZipRecruiter. And so it's a quick way to test different job boards and look at different job boards because they all have different inventory and different algorithms. And then, of course, you can save. There's some changes, like things like the keywords aren't in there now. But there's a bunch of other neat things. You now have the Super Search, and you have this dashboard that's with you. You can track your applications and your bookmark saved and your most recent save. So stay tuned for that coming next week. It's very, very close to done. We just want to make sure it's perfect before we release it. Okay, so that's bookmarking, and that's getting jobs into your tracker and starting to sort of identify and understand the market. Let me go through some questions. Saeed, does it mostly is US jobs? Yes. That's kind of where we're focused on right now, and we're trying to get that. That's not perfect yet, so we want to get that great before we expand out into other countries and make sure we're doing that properly. But we have the data. We just, we don't have it structured and syndicated yet. We license that job data. We try to only to link directly to career sites. When I say career sites, I mean the company pages directly. We try not to aggregate aggregators. One of our early data providers did, so some of the jobs on there still may be, but like the new jobs don't do that. And so we're really trying to facilitate. Also, companies can't post to be on our job board. So what we're really trying to do is go find all the jobs out there and not have our sorting algorithms influenced by who's paying to be at the top. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how job boards generally work. But since we're kind of purely on the consumer side, we see our job is to go find all the jobs for you. So we don't do that. But it's really a feature that for us is still very much in development. And so we're looking to do some new stuff there, which maybe if I have time, there's another cool little thing I could show you guys that's coming. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Yeah, Abby, I know it's one of my favorite tools that we've built, and it's kind of tucked away. So I made a video about it on LinkedIn yesterday. It's kind of cool, and so I always forget to tell people. Okay. Can companies, recruiters see if you've... No, absolutely not. So any of the jobs on our job board, if you save jobs on LinkedIn, if you manually add a job, which I'll show you guys how to do in a second, none of that goes to our job board. They're not even databases that talk to each other and even know each other exist. That is 100% yours. We source the jobs in a completely different way, actually very inefficiently. When you save a job from our database, it actually copies it over to your tracker so you could modify the JD if you wanted. Nobody would know. We are, purely on the consumer side. We don't, one of the ways that certain job platforms monetize is by selling leads. It's a way for them to stay free, which is, again, perfectly fine business model, just not something we do. Our business model is pretty simple. We have a freemium tier for users, and that's it. That's the only way we make money. And so everything we do is is in the service of job seekers and trying to make your job search better. Okay, let me show this real quick because I forgot to do it here. When you want to add jobs to your tracker, you can also add them manually. If you found one online and you just want to paste it in, you can do that as here. Paste the URL, company name, location, and paste in the job description and save it. If someone forwarded you a job, if it was a job that wasn't online, it'll be in your tracker, and rest assured, nothing else in Teal will see it. It will not make its way into our job board. And also, if your employer won't know you're doing this, again, nobody will know. Your data is only your data. And the people at Teal who are looking at our product analytics, no one else will know. It doesn't get shared or monetized in any way. Okay. All right. So I think I got through the bulk of the questions. All right. From here, we will move on to the next thing. So that is researching jobs, identifying jobs, reading the job description so you get a sense of the market. Now, I recommend you start to work on your resume. And so let's do that. And what I recommend we start with is creating a master resume. I see a lot of people struggle with trying to make this one perfect document. And I call this the curation creation problem. You're trying to highlight as much of you as you can, but still be as concise as possible, which is really difficult. And so as you're creating, you're curating, and you're editing, and you're kind of having this like mental tension that's going back and forth. And so I like to decouple those things. First, let's create a master resume where you're not worried about editing and taking things out. You just want to dump everything else, everything you've done on there. Some people might call it like a brain dump or something. So I'm going to come over to the Teal Resume Builder. And in this case, I'm going to use Tina Miller's LinkedIn to seed it. You can upload a PDF. There's lots of ways that you can paste in from a Google Sheet. LinkedIn is just super structured and easy for me to do it. And it's fast. So I'm going to import Tina Miller's LinkedIn. And we'll hit next, and we'll skip the tour for now. And so what you're seeing here is the Teal Resume Builder. You could do this with a Google Doc. You could do this with Notion. You could do this wherever you want. I haven't seen many other resume builders that sort of have a built-in master resume paradigm. If they do, try it. They're great. There's lots of great resume builders. Resi, Enhanced CV, the Simplify folks, Simplify.jobs have a great resume builder. Lots of really good Resume.io, tons of good resume builders out there. Our main differentiator is that we're sort of built on this master resume paradigm. And so what you see over here on the left is your career history. You can put in all your information, various target titles you might be pursuing, different versions of your professional summary, and then your work experience. And the goal here is to just list as much as possible. Because what you'll notice is each of these have a checkbox. Because what you're doing is you'll be turning on and off, kind of curating what you want to show on a particular resume for a job. So that's what you have over here. All your certifications, education, skills. You want to load this up with everything possible. Because then what we'll do is we will selectively choose what we include on particular resumes. We will be tailoring resumes per job we apply to. But to start to fill out our master resume, I actually think you can use job descriptions to help you with that as well. But before I do that, let me just show how you can make content on your own. So adding in bullets, the bulk of resumes is bullets. Get your facts right, start dates, end dates, positions, education, get that stuff right. Then really the bulk of your work is going to be in bullets. That's where you're showing impact. That's where people are kind of seeing proof that you've done the work. So here on this NVIDIA position for Tina, we'll go ahead and add a bullet. And there's some cool things here for adding a bullet that I want to show. When you first add a bullet, we will immediately suggest bullets with AI. And we're just using the job title and some context. Think of these as templates or starters. Obviously, we weren't there with you. We don't know what you did. But a lot of people get stuck on the format and like how they should do it. So these, really think of these as starters for you to modify. And so, give them a bit of grace and the benefit of the doubt so that you can just use them as a starter. And you can pick the one, you can say, you know what? Yeah, this one's kind of close to what I did. I'm not going to go crazy now doing it because I want to save you guys the time, but tweak it a little bit and go ahead and save it. And that added a bullet. Now let's go back and see, hey, this Facebook position is kind of light on bullets. Let's add some here. And in this case, I will write with AI. If you're using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, you can paste them in here. Everything we're doing right now is free. We haven't used a single paid feature yet. So you can, if you're using another tool to do this and have this be as your sort of master resume manager of content, you can do that. We'll go ahead and write with AI. And this time, we're going to jump over to Coach Me. I think a lot of people struggle with, they don't remember what they did. And so this is another one of these features that we have that I think is kind of nestled away in Teal that I really love. And so using the job title, it's going to then ask you a few things. Did you focus on any of these? And say, sure, she did performance analysis. We'll continue. And then it's going to ask you some follow-up questions. Did you increase ROI? And so, sure, boosted conversion. And now it's going to use those inputs to draft suggestions for you. And so you can use that bullet, modify it, and save it. And now we'll add another bullet. Actually, we'll go ahead and save the keywords one for when we add a job. It'll do keywords and it'll do it just on the job title, but adding in a job description, we can pull keywords directly from a JD. So to do that, I haven't gotten to the template or anything yet. I think people over-focus the template. And I understand if you're working in Google Docs or Microsoft Word, it's really hard to change the template after the fact. It's really easy to do in Teal, so I'm sort of doing that after. But this template kind of gives you the general idea. So I'm going to go over to the job matcher. And since we have jobs in our job tracker, whether you intend to apply to these or just using them for research, right? That eBay one, I'd say, was pretty indicative of what I want to be able to do. So here it is. And now that job's been put side by side with my master resume. And so I can see the keywords. We're not upgraded right now. So the CTA is missing. So every time when I do these, I find bugs occasionally. So just found one. So you would see the top 5 keywords for free. Sometimes I do have this thing turned on, StyleBot, that does break, but doesn't seem like that's on. So you can see that you have some keywords. It's giving you a 14% match on the keyword. If you want to see the job description side by side, you can just click your job description. Oh, getting a weird. Don't know what happened. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some real-time troubleshooting. There's our job description. It should be this one. Seems like we found a bug. Let's go ahead into our job matcher. There it is. Okay, something happened. And there's our CTA. Something must have happened with a weird sort of timing condition, but there you go. And so now you can see the job description side by side if you want to sort of start to address it. And even though the keywords are gated, a little bit of a teal hack, you can still see them, some of them, when you go to add a bullet. So here, let's go ahead and write with AI, and let's use keywords this time. And what this is going to do is pull keywords from the job description. All right, so we'll go ahead as, this wasn't even a marketing job, but you guys get the idea. I'm not going to go back and change it now. Churn, we'll go ahead and continue. And it will create bullets with those keywords. So you reduce churn, and we'll use that bullet and save it. The other way you could do it is if you write with AI, you can go to the job description itself, and then it's going to identify bullets within the JD. And now you can respond to those in particular. So, you may not respond to like needing Microsoft Excel or something, write a bullet for that, but here's, that, continue. And it'll write a bullet in response to that job, that line in the job description. So we'll use that bullet and we'll save it. So I would say continue with that process. Add certifications. Also here on the job description, if we we'll upgrade here in a second so you can see that. I would add a target title. I always recommend if you're going to be customizing anything on your resume, some might call this a headline. I'll just paste that in. And so now that is on my resume. When I go back over to the content editor, I have a nice target title. I want to stay on all the free features before I jump to any paid features, so you guys can see everything you can do for free. But we're at the 30-minute mark. Let me take a beat there and see if there's any questions. Okay, do you have any high level of confidence in the accuracy of when jobs say they were listed on a particular job board? For example, if it says it was posted in the last 24 hours or 2 days, is that fairly accurate? So I can't speak to other job boards. I can tell you for our job board, it's from the day we get it. And so we license data from companies. They're running usually every day, and they're going directly to the career sites and seeing the jobs they find. And sometimes there's like a 1 or 2 day lag. And sometimes it'll have the date that it's posted, not always, especially if it's what's called an evergreen job that they just always have open. That might happen for a company that hires engineers regularly or hires customer support people regularly. So that would be an evergreen job. So the dates on those are a little tricky. But that's generally where our date is from when we first identified it. Sometimes I find that odd or partial keywords are identified. Yeah, that we're working on that. We actually have a new keyword algorithm that should be ready in the next couple days, and it'll probably be a week or 2 before it makes its way into the interface. But once you upgrade, you can also ignore keywords. We're never going to be perfect, so you can ignore keywords and you can add keywords. But we are looking to make a drastic improvement in our keyword detection within Teal here very soon. Okay, let's see. Do you have any tips on coming up with bullet points representing impact achievements at work? Yeah, so my recommendation for coming up with bullets is look at the job description. I know that you're probably tired of hearing that. If you're struggling with that, one thing I recommend, it's sort of a silly little trick, but is go to a bullet on a job description and just add a question mark at the end. And think of it as a questionnaire for yourself. And this is why I said not even jobs you're necessarily applying to. Just go bookmark 10, 15 jobs. Just in your brain, put a questionnaire on the back of it and think, did I do this? And first, just start to write, yes, I did this. And think of a time you did it. You can write it in responsibility form, task form, answer it to yourself on your phone and record it as a voice note. And then the next step I would say is did any of the business metrics or how'd the business get better as a result of the things I did? Maybe you have a metric. If you do, great. If you don't, it's okay. Use qualitative language. I improved the company's efficiency. I helped us grow revenue, right? It shows that you had impact. The reason people focus on numbers is because they stand out in a sea of letters. And for some reason, we're trained to just believe numbers when we see them on paper. So I think they bring a little bit more oomph, and they help bring credibility and proof to the way that you write it, but it's not critical. Again, I think it's better. It's A+ versus A. But as a way to just think about what are the things I did, this is why I like starting with job descriptions as a bit of a questionnaire for yourself to remind yourself of all the things you did. All right, I hope that helps as a technique, Seb. But you share the resume. No, nothing within Teal is shared outside of Teal for Sharon. We definitely do not. Okay, I have cut down my experiences because of ageism. Do you think there's a sweet spot on resume length? So, like, I'm not a big resume length person. I think you should include the amount of content required to show that you're the best candidate for the job. I do think if your resume is long, you will probably lose people's attention. So my general advice is page one needs to be incredible. If page one is not great and relevant, they're not going to read page two. And so they're not even going to read page five or page six. It doesn't matter. It's not really about page length. I would think about your resume, especially the first page, in like sections. First third, second third, last third. And each of those sections needs to hook the reader. You know, I have a LinkedIn post that I'm kind of crafting as have you ever walked out of a movie early? Have you ever left a restaurant if they didn't serve you on time? Right? We make very fast snap decisions. And so your resume may be incredible and it may include all sorts of content, but if it's on the third page, they have to get through page one and page two. So what I like to say is make sure that your most compelling content, and I think the way you do this, if you're, without deviating from a reverse chronological resume, which I don't think you should, is a professional summary and making sure that your most recent position has the punchiest stuff. Because also just intuitively, people are going to say a position you had 3 or 4 positions ago just isn't as fresh. The knowledge isn't as fresh. So they want to know what you most recently did because they're going to assume those are the muscles you have the warmest. So just, sometimes people like to overthink these things, and I think just like a pure common sense. When you're buying things, if you're hiring a contractor or a doctor, right? Do you want to go to a doctor that did the thing 10 years ago or just recently did it last week? And people just use very similar heuristics for how they're deciding on when to make a hiring decision. Not to oversimplify it or to trivialize it, but sometimes it really is, it's humans making the bulk of these decisions. And so try to get into the psyche of hiring. Okay, awesome. So now I will talk a little bit about the resume template. Again, I want to get through the stuff that we can do for free, and then we will upgrade here. So a template, I'm not a big template person either. I don't think it's something you should over invest time and energy on. Really keep it simple. Most resume templates, even from Canva, are ATS compliant. They can be parsed. Recruiters will look at a PDF or a Word doc. I'm sure there are individual ATSs that may not comply with, but there's well over 200 or 300 different ATS platforms. Saying ATS is like saying soda. There's so many. They all parse differently. They all structure differently. They all have different processes, but more often than not, this is a human being looking to make a hire, and they don't entirely trust these systems to do it. So they like to look at the resumes. And that's, we use Ashby. We've used Greenhouse, where I worked before. I worked at WeWork. We had Workday. And so most of the time, people are looking at them, and it's usually just fine. But that said, there are some things you can adjust. Our default resume template is our recommendations, but feel free to change them. Again, I don't think these are the reasons you're going to get hired or not hired. Ultimately, it's about your content. We have a library of templates you can pick from. There are some 2-column ones if you like. I do think that if you're trying to get the resume to fill out a lot of the online application for you, that's where parsing comes in, and some of them might cause more failing. That's not what the company sees. They still look at your resume anyway. But it could make some of those things a little trickier. I have seen 2 columns fail a little more at that because it's hard for the parser to understand what is what. But I think it's fine. If that makes you feel more confident and you like it better, use it. It should be okay. So we'll just go ahead and use that one. And then there's a couple settings in here. There's, definitely ways you might want to present your data. You can change some of these settings, like the line height, the just of those. You can change an accent color. You can use those. If you want to show just years only, you can do that. Look, I think ageism is real, and I would be mindful about how that presents, especially if a company says they're looking to hire someone between 5 to 8 years of experience, there's a reason. I may not know what their reason is, but there's a reason, right? There's some expectation of like what that person's probably comfortable making in comp perspective, what their understanding of their responsibilities will be. And if someone's got 20 years of experience who applies for a 5 to 8 years of experience, people make assumptions. They're like, oh, you know, they're going to be looking for management real soon. They're not looking to come back and get in the trenches and roll up their sleeves, which could be wrong, very wrong. But those are assumptions. So if they wrote that, there was an intentionality to that. If you obviously deviate from that, well, that's going to probably put you below someone who falls within that bullseye. It's not like, oh, what a great deal. I'm asking for someone for 5 to 8 years. Here's someone with 20. That's generally not how people hiring think about it. That's just my experience, not always true. Hiring is a very human process and people approach it in very different ways. So, you know, I can just say, like, the majority of what I've seen, people don't just assume like they're getting a deal on someone with a ton of experience when they're looking for less. So what I would say to combat that is just don't be as overt about your experience. You don't, like, omitting information on your resume is not lying or being disingenuous. It's just showing a company what they're looking for. So if you've got, to the question about 25 years of experience and the company is asking for, let's say 10, which is still plenty, maybe don't include, you know, jobs from 5 and 6 ago. Include your last 3 or 4 jobs. It's still going to show plenty of experience. Yeah, and you might leave off your graduation year from your education. Like, the recruiter or the hiring manager who's looked a lot of resumes, like, they know what you're doing. They'll raise an eyebrow. But if the content is great and super relevant, they'll bring you in for an interview. So you've kind of removed their ability to have that bias by doing that. And you're not doing anything wrong. You're not being disingenuous. You're not lying. You're not doing anything illegal. A resume does not need to be a picture perfect representation of everything you've ever done in your career. It is a marketing document that is positioning you to be brought in for an interview. It doesn't land you the job at the end of the day. It's the interview process. So I think you can be very selective with what you include. Now, I also think if you leave off your last job because it's not as relevant and you show like you haven't been working for 3 or 4 years, well, that's weird, right? Like, the story gets weird. So think about the narrative flow and how someone's reading it. So anyways, that's how you would tackle some of that. You can have some basic alignment things, date alignments. If you like those on the right, no problem. This is something that oftentimes isn't understood in our resume builder. Actually, I'll show that in just a second. It's on the next page. And then skills, if you want to show those differently as like columns. Like, my preference is just a simple comma separated list. It's very dense and it gets to the point. But if you don't like that and you want to do something like this, go for it. Again, it's not going to matter. You can change it to 2 columns, 4 columns. We got pretty fun controls of that here. And look, I wouldn't go much tighter than margins on this. I see some people like really get hung up on the 1-page thing and they do something like this. This line length is really hard on the eyes to read. So I wouldn't recommend it, but you can if you want. There's sort of graphic design best practices that I'd recommend you follow. So you can reorder the sections. If you recently finished schooling and you want to put your education at the top, you could do that. That's all here in the sections. And then here's some of the settings I was talking about. We default to company and position, because what that allows you to do is put the company once and show maximum tenure. That's what I think people are looking for. If you wanted to show dates by position, you could do that. And that would put the dates here. My concern is if you moved up very quickly, you were in a year in each position, someone who's, at the pace that they skim resumes might think you were job hopping and not understand that those were both at the same company. The way you can combat that is you can group your experiences by position. So then it shows position company. I still think it's susceptible to the same kind of skimming challenge, and it takes more space. You're putting the same company twice. Do I think it's the reason you're not going to get called in? Definitely not. Just my preference. Some people prefer to put title first. Do whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. It's all data in teal. It doesn't matter. Teal doesn't care. So you can do however you'd like. And then there's some advanced settings on customization, which I will now upgrade this account so you all can see. Actually, real quick, since we have our whole career history kind of filled out, I'll show you guys how you can make a professional summary. If you want to add another one, just write that. It'll pull in everything that you have currently turned on. And so it'll write that for you, save it. And so you can also tweak these by job you apply to. Let me pause there real quick before I upgrade this account and see if there's any questions. Multiple positions. Just showed it. I mean, if you're dealing with like the tenure thing, you could just show the last one. I like to show progression. It shows that you grew at the company and just wouldn't put as many bullets, maybe 1 or 2 for each one, or more on the first one and then show the last ones. Um, Something I've seen done, you'd have to do a little bit of a hack with Teal to do this, is put all the titles in one. So it'd be like marketing, associate marketing director, marketing manager, comma, and do the start and end. You kind of collapse them into one, so visually it's not as much. If you're worried about that, you could do that. That's a way to kind of handle that. Okay, let me get this account. I'm going to upgrade it. While I'm doing that, let me see if there's any other questions. Or load in your questions. I just have to upgrade this account on another screen here real quick. So everything I've shown so far, you can do for free. There's even more stuff you can do for free, which I'll call out here in a minute. Okay, and so now when we go to job matching, there we go. All the keywords are unlocked. And so if we wanted to start to tailor this resume for this particular job, let's actually let's do another one. So let's create a new resume, which I'll go back to the resume builder. I'll make a new resume. This is an important concept here. Unlike a Google Doc or a Word doc, it does not start blank. It starts with your full career history. That's a feature, not a bug. And that can be confusing to people because they're expecting a blank document. This is how you leverage your master resume, and you don't have to start from scratch every time. If you find yourself duplicating bullets or wanting to erase bullets, really you're not sort of leveraging the hiding of the content. If you're looking to make subtle changes on a bullet, I can show you how we do the revision tracking. We have some new features coming there that are going to make it a lot easier if you want to sort of tailor particular keywords to a job. Let's go ahead and match another job here. So right from here, you could search, if I search, it's going to search our job board and you can pull them in. But if you're really doing like in-depth searching, I would not do that from here. I would do that with the job search engine. So here, let's do the Senior Director of Marketing. Yeah, Growth Marketing and Strategy at Salesforce. We'll do that one. All right, this is very much a marketing position. I think that first one I picked was a mistake. So what I'll do here is I'll go through the keywords. Growth marketing, absolutely. Marketing operations, staffing, that's probably one I don't care about. Acting, that feels like a bad keyword detection. Again, we will make this better. You shouldn't have to do this, but diving, that's weird. Forums. So I will go in and just like clean some of these up. KPIs, sure. Business reviews, marketing planning, product marketing, reviews, we'll ignore that. Salesforce, because it's the name of the company, I'm going to keep that and make sure it's in my my keywords. And so here's some soft skills. Just aligned, we'll ignore that. So I'm not going to go through the whole process, but you get the idea once you upgrade. And then we can add in our own custom keywords. Here you can see all the ones we have already. So now let's start to up our score. The quickest way to do that is I like to say like technology names or very technical hard skills, I actually like to put in the skills section. So you can do that real easy by going over here to the job description section. And so like Salesforce, I'm just going to add that to my skills. So that just put it in. So I'm not going to write a bullet that shows how I use Salesforce. I mean, for this particular company, I might because I'm applying there, but otherwise typically I wouldn't. So Slack, let's just go ahead and say, yeah, I know how to use Slack. That's in my technical skills. Growth marketing is probably one I'd toss in there. And then look at some soft skills. Soft skills, I think, look a little weird on a list of skills. Initiative, I'm just going to ignore that. This is another nice way to kind of look hands-on. I'm going to ignore that. Stakeholders, yeah, I'll keep that. Writing, sure, I'll add that into my skills. Written communication, okay, cool. So there we go. We've got a kind of a nice baseline set of skills that we can work with. So let's add in some keywords. So what we can do here, if we go back to our keywords, is we can highlight all the ones we have on. So it's like, oh, this professional summary actually had a keyword in it. Let me quickly look. Oh, that bullet already has a keyword. So let me bring that back. This one already has one. Let me bring that back. So you're not needing to originate new content. So now I know I'm in a good place. It still feels a little long. These don't have keywords. So let me go ahead and turn these off. And now let's go ahead and add some bullets. And so now I can write with AI since I've upgraded the account. I can do unlimited AI creation. We'll go over to keywords, and we can see here marketing operations, KPIs, marketing planning. Give me some bullets for those. So led marketing operations to enhance KPI tracking. Great. Again, modify the numbers. Don't ever use what comes straight out of AI on your own. We'll go ahead and save that, and that upped my score. I'll add a couple others. Again, if you haven't done the things, then you haven't done the things, right? So I'm not recommending you lie or falsify information. But if you've done it and it's just not on your resume yet, add it. And this is why using JDs as kind of these initiators or instigators of questions of what you've done is really a great way, because you're getting a real-time pulse of what the market wants. And so there we go. I've gotten it up to 46, and we could keep going here, right? I can write with AI. It is continuing to pull in the same keywords, which is kind of annoying. It's not supposed to do that. So if that's the case, wonder if it didn't turn those on. Sometimes these things can be a teensy bit laggy. So even in live demos, we'll get bugs. Business objectives, use bullet, save it. There we go. It got it up the score. So you'll go through that, and it might be KPI versus KPIs. Again, we have a better matching algorithm coming out. Let's hear multiple channels. So I was missing that one. So we'll leave it at 52. You get the idea. And the first one's going to take a little longer. I'm not going to pretend like this is a fast process at the beginning. This is a go slow to go fast. As you apply to more jobs, and if they're not wildly different, now you're going to start to really pick up speed. Because as you apply to more jobs and as you tailor more, you're going to create all this content. And since you're only picking the ones you want per job you apply to, it's not going to get exhaustively long. So here we're at 2 pages. 2 pages is fine. Some of these bullets I don't need. Now, I would also reorder them if this is what I think my best bullet is. Let me do that. For this particular job now, for a professional summary, it will use the job description and only the bullets I have turned on. So let's write one that's tailored to this particular job. See, this is off. She's got like 12 years of experience. So let's fix that and save that. Always check what the AI does. We're looking to make it better. There's some things that should just do better. ChatGPT does it fine. So we're using the same engines. So don't let us off the hook, but check it also. And so there you are. You can look at that, check your education. In this case, I probably, unless the volunteering was at something that was like sales related, I probably wouldn't include it. So let me go ahead and turn that off. For other jobs, I may want it. And then here's our skills. And if you wanted to categorize them, you can create skills categories and start to group them. Up to you. I don't really think they're a big deal, but also if you want to, go for it. And then you're going to export that out as a PDF. We'll do a quick check for you. Export it. I'll just put it here on my desktop. And there you go, right? It's fully highlightable, which means it's parsable PDF. And you'd send that off. All right, so now let's keep going with our process. I'm starting to run short on time. I do have a little bit of buffer today, so but I have a flight tonight, so I gotta can't lollygag here. We do have this analysis tool as well, so you can have it run some. It thinks this professional summary is a little short. That's fine. It does think that this job has a few too many bullets turned on. Again, these are kind of hard rules. We're working on writing a much more like robust resume analysis. But if you did want to go through these, you can go. But 72 is a pretty good score. We also have the ability to write a cover letter, the jobs attached, at the length, tone. You can pick particular parts of the JD if you'd like, and we'll go ahead and apply. And then it'll make a cover letter in the same exact style and visual aesthetic of your resume template. That's one of the benefits of having that kind of design system powering that. So those will look nicely together. Okay, that is all things resume creating. Let's go back over to our job tracker. We went to that job. We would go to their website. Unfortunately, it's Workday. No, Workday's fine. I'm just kidding. I actually think you should apply to jobs with Workday. It is a fair amount of friction, but that means that many less people will do it. So give it a whirl. I think Simplify.jobs is a great like application assistant. They have a great product. I recommend you check that out as well. They also have a resume builder, but they have a really great application like filling product. And And then you would say, okay, I applied, moved it over to applied. And so you want to start to track your applications, right? I think this is something a lot of people don't do. They keep it in their head. They try to remember it all, and it feels like you're juggling all these balls, and that can be incredibly overwhelming, or balancing dishes, whatever the analogy is. And so I really recommend you put everything in your tracker. If you don't want to track the stuff you're just interested in, again, we make that really easy with a Chrome extension and just adding things. At least do the things you applied to so you can know to follow up. Because then we will give you guidance, we will give you, suggestions to follow up, and then in the tracker, go ahead and collapse that. There's email templates you can use. You can just copy paste those. Those aren't written with AI. They're just kind of like good old fashioned templates that you can use. There's a checklist to help you think through all the things you did. And then here's another really cool feature. This is actually something that I think you can hack and use to that question earlier of like, I'm not sure what I did. I'll show you how you can use this here in just a second, but track your dates, when you applied, all that good stuff. So let's say we get called back. We're gonna do an interview for this job. And so now we can start to track our interviews. Let me go ahead and close that. You can have your first interview, put your date of your interview, the type of interview, but you can also practice for your interview. So we'll go ahead and start a practice session. It's using a different camera, so you guys get two perspectives of me. It's going to use the job description, and let's go ahead, and I don't think you guys are going to be able to hear it. Yeah, last time I did this, you guys can't hear it, right? I don't think so. Anyways, it just asked me how I was. You can see what it's saying. I'm doing great. How are you doing? I'll end it since you guys can't hear it. But what you'll then get is an analysis of your interview, how long you spoke, the general direction. But really, it's a great way to just practice having it ask you questions, and either one, helping you remember things you did, or two, um, getting practice for the interview itself. Now, there is another cool feature here that is a little more abstract. If you come over to our interview practice, if you have jobs coming up that are in the interview stage, they'll be here for you. Or you can practice individual questions like, tell me about yourself. And it's just practicing, tell me about yourself. You can have it coach you or do the mock. And I think there's 8 different scenarios in here that you can go through, and it'll be a similar thing. It'll talk to you, and then it'll record it, and you can go back and see it. So I gotta check on Riverside how I can stream the audio for the next one, but you guys saw the transcript. You get the idea. It talks to you on your camera, sorry, on your microphone. There's no like virtual avatar. We show your screen so you can see yourself, and so you can see how you show up, and then we'll give you feedback on the transcript. All right, and then as you work through your tracker, let's go back to that job at Salesforce. You can also search these. You can use these as filters. So that Salesforce job is now in interviewing. So you can click these chevrons as quick filters. You can group them by status and stage. You can turn on and off columns. You can also export this data. If you need to do any kind of reporting for any kind of reason, you can do export a report, which will have all the time activity, which I think works with about 70% of the states for requirements if you need to report on the activity on your job search. And then download data it more looks like the tracker itself with the columns. And if you want to see jobs you've archived, they're over here in archived. Go back. So, say like this job, bookmarked to, no response. If I go back over to archive jobs, there it is. See, now we are working to get them all into one view because some people have asked for that. But they're there. We just take them off so you don't have to see them anymore, and they don't take up the space. But this job, I can then go over to negotiating. There is an offer analysis tool. I'm not going to demo this right now. You just paste in your offer, and then you can chat with like a ChatGPT like chat agent that'll help you, and it'll also structure the offer for you and show you all the things that are within it, which are pretty neat. We'll go back over to jobs. And you'll work through as you do more interviews. You can add each interview. So second interview, third interview, they're kind of written generically because every company does it different. Set your dates. And then you'll have on your home a nice little follow-up of the dates. You can keep track of your weekly pacing, the efficacy of your job search pipeline, and anything in applying will be in this priorities section. And then you're going to accept that job because all of you are going to have success with your job search. You're going to stay on top of it. You're going to measure the whole process, and you will land that job. It's different in different occupations, different parts of the country, different industries, all have, and so it's a little bit of a game of luck, but effort absolutely goes a long way. And so if you have managed this process and stay diligent, come up with a good cadence that works for you, it should, pieces should start to fall into place. I would also say leverage the data from your job search. If you've applied to 100 jobs and you haven't heard back, sure, some markets are tough, some occupations are tough, but think about what you can change, what you can modify. Are you tailoring? Are you applying as soon as the job gets posted? I think speed to application is very, very important. Once a company has 500 or 600 applicants, don't trust the number on LinkedIn. That's how many people have clicked the apply button. But I will say, there's a good chance their applicant might be in that first 500 or 600. So try to focus on speed to application and things like that. Focus on all the things you can control, to try to get different outcomes. All right, with that, I will wrap up talking. I will answer any other questions. Sharon, thank you. We try our best. There's a lot in here that's kind of buried. If you sign up, we sort of send you emails with things. We try to point you in the direction, but that's why I do these. There's just a lot of stuff I cover that I can show. I can answer questions, and also can show me where we have gaps in our onboarding. So, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in the platform. But like I said, you can do all these things on other tools. Use a Google Sheet, use Google Docs, use ChatGPT, use Google Gemini. Leverage all the tools at your disposal. There's so many incredible technologies out there to help with this process. Use many job boards, right? Go to career sites, use Google. Hopefully we can help. Use Teal. Lots of it is free, but take advantage of all the technology out there to make the process as kind of fun and empowering as you can. Haven't heard anyone yet who said they love job searching, but we're trying to make a dent in that and make it feel like an empowering process where you're out there and getting what you want. Cool. Any other questions? This stream will automatically be on YouTube. If you got this on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. I try to share content every single day. I think I'm doing one of these again next week. I might be taking June off from webinars, but I really want to do one of these a week. But if you have any questions, email me, DM me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. I check my DMs regularly. I will occasionally do one-on-ones. I only have so much time, but I really do like to try to help job seekers. Oh, one last thing. So for anyone that stuck around, I guess this will be your treat. Let's see if this works. Okay, so this is something that we are releasing into alpha next week, but I don't know if I can chat you all. Maybe. So anyways, just write this down. search-agent.tealhq.com. I would love your feedback on this. This is a new tool we've got. You guys are the first to see it. It is trying to be a more agentic conversational job search. So I also use this very cool tool called Whisperflow. I highly recommend it. It allows me to sort of transcribe because I'm a really poor typer. So I'm going to do that here. This isn't some sort of form of wizardry when I talk into the computer. So here, let me show you how to do that. I am a marketing director looking for jobs at a SaaS company making at least 150K. And so that's, now we search for that. Let's see how it does. So there it goes. So now it's going to search, and it's going to think of it as a sort of, mashup of ChatGPT and a job search engine. And it is going to query our database. Right now, it's actually a limited subset of a database, but this is something we've got coming here. So it's trying a couple different ways to structure that. You can see that it took my sort of loose prompt and turned it into a structured query. This is a little bit of the back end logic, and here you go. So it's starting to show me jobs now, and it's going to tell me why it's great. It doesn't even look at your career history yet. Soon it'll be it'll know your resume, and it'll be able to tell you jobs that are a perfect match for you. But now it's going to prompt you with ways to refine your search. But you can also even ask it things like, what are some of the most common benefits on these jobs? And since all that data is now in memory and part of this query, you can interact with it. You can, because it's also being powered by an LLM. In this case, it's Claude. And so you could ask it, what adjustments should I make to my resume? Eventually, it'll be integrated with our resume builder, and it can make those changes for you. But here you can see it kind of running. So I'd love your feedback on this. It may not have the freshest jobs, but if anyone wants to sort of give this a spin or get early access to it, here it is. I mean, the jobs are fairly fresh. I think they're 5 or 6 days old. We're going to refresh it at the end of this week with a whole bunch of new jobs, and then it'll be refreshing on a regular basis once it's out. But you can see it's got all that data in there. You know, this is found in 60 to 80% of the positions. So there's some cool stuff. Give it a whirl. Would absolutely love your feedback. DM it to me, email it to me. Happy to do like a moderated one-on-one session. If you can give me a little feedback for this, that would be awesome. So thanks so much for joining. Again, I'll try to do these on the regular. If you have any questions, let me know. Best of luck with all of your job searches. I hope you can't make it to the next one because you're starting your new job. All right. Talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.